Welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deep into the world of Jefferson nickels, one of the most fascinating and collectible coins in U.S. history. Many people see Jefferson nickels as ordinary pocket change, but the truth is that some of these coins are extremely valuable and highly sought after by collectors. If you stay with me throughout this entire video, you will discover why certain Jefferson nickels can be worth far more than their face value, and you might even realize that coins sitting in your collection or spare change could be hidden treasures. These coins hold history, rarity, and real value, and I'm going to show you why they should never be overlooked. So make sure you watch this video all the way to the end. And before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss out on learning about valuable coins and the secrets that make them worth collecting. Let's get started. First up, the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is a coin that collectors and coin enthusiasts always pay close attention to because it is part of the long-running Jefferson nickel series, a coin that has been minted in the United States since 1938. When we talk about the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark, we are talking about a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint because coins without a mint mark during this period usually came from Philadelphia. This makes the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark an interesting piece for collectors who are searching for valuable Jefferson nickels. Viewers should stay tuned because this coin is valuable, and understanding why it is valuable is the key to knowing what to look for in your change or in your coin collection. The Jefferson nickel has always been a part of American pocket change, and the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark carries that tradition forward. Designed by Felix Schlag, the obverse of the Jefferson nickel shows a portrait of President Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers and the third president of the United States. The reverse shows Jefferson's home, Monticello, an iconic building and one of the most recognized designs in U.S. coinage. In 1974, millions of Jefferson nickels were struck, but the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark from Philadelphia has its own collector interest, especially when we look at condition, rarity in high grades, and potential errors. For those of you who want to know why this coin is valuable, the answer lies in a combination of history, mintage numbers, errors, and condition. In circulated grades, the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark may seem like an ordinary coin worth only face value, but in uncirculated condition, especially when well preserved with sharp details and original luster, the value can increase significantly. Collectors are always searching for 1974 Jefferson nickels that are well struck, with clear steps on Monticello, because full steps examples are especially valuable. These full steps designations add a premium to the coin and make the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark a valuable part of any Jefferson nickel collection. When you hear coin collectors talk about valuable Jefferson nickels, they often emphasize the full steps variety. The full steps on the reverse of the Jefferson nickel refer to the steps on Monticello being fully struck and visible without breaks. In 1974, coins from Philadelphia without a mint mark often had weaker strikes, so finding a 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark and with full steps makes that coin far more valuable than the typical circulated example. Some of these full steps 1974 Jefferson nickels can be worth much more than their face value, making them highly sought after by collectors who specialize in Jefferson nickels. Another factor that makes the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark valuable is the possibility of errors and varieties. Many Jefferson nickels from the 1970s have been found with double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, and other minting anomalies. If you happen to find a 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark that has one of these errors, you could be holding a coin that is worth far more than 5 cents. Collectors love error coins, and error Jefferson nickels can bring strong premiums in the marketplace. This is why it is important to always check your change, because the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is one of those coins that can surprise you with unexpected value. Let's take a closer look at the history of 1974 and why the Jefferson nickel continued to be important at the time. The mid-1970s was a period of economic change in the United States, with inflation, rising costs, and changes in coinage materials for some denominations. While the Jefferson nickel continued to be made out of a copper-nickel alloy, Collectors of today look back at the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark as part of this era of American coinage history. Owning a 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is like holding a small piece of American history, and that historical connection adds to the coin's value for collectors and enthusiasts. When building a collection of Jefferson nickels, many collectors focus on acquiring one coin from each year and mint. The 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark fills that spot in the collection and is necessary for anyone who wants a complete set. Because it was struck in large numbers, you might think the coin has little value, but condition and rarity in high grade tell a different story. Coins that have been preserved in mint state condition, with no wear and strong eye appeal, are much more valuable than the typical examples found in circulation. This is why collectors are willing to pay more for a 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark when it is found in pristine condition. Another point worth noting is that while Philadelphia struck many Jefferson nickels in 1974, only a small percentage survive today in gem condition with full steps. The passage of time means most coins were spent, circulated, and worn down. This makes the remaining uncirculated examples more desirable and valuable. So, when we say that the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is valuable, we are pointing out that collectors will always reward coins that are scarce in top quality. If you are searching through rolls of nickels or checking your pocket change, keep an eye out for this coin because it could be worth far more than 5 cents. Collectors and dealers continue to watch the Jefferson nickel market closely, and the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is often discussed as part of the broader trend in nickel collecting. While some people overlook Jefferson nickels, serious collectors understand their value, especially when it comes to coins like the 1974 no mint mark nickel in high grade. It's not just about owning a coin. It's about owning a piece of American numismatic history that carries both financial and historical value. The longer you study Jefferson nickels, the more you realize that coins like the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark are not only interesting, but also valuable because they are part of the story of U.S. coinage. Whether you are just beginning your journey as a collector or you have been collecting for many years, adding the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark to your collection is a smart move. Its value comes from history, condition, rarity, and collector demand, and these factors continue to make it a coin worth holding on to. So, when you hear someone mention the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark, remember that this is not just a common nickel. It is a coin that can be valuable, especially in uncirculated condition or with full steps details. Always check your coins carefully, because a coin like this can be hiding in plain sight. For collectors, the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is an essential piece, and for viewers who are searching for valuable coins, this is one you should always pay attention to. Next up, the 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is one of those coins that every collector should pay attention to because this coin is far more interesting than many people realize. The D mint mark stands for the Denver Mint, and when we talk about the 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark, we are talking about a coin struck in large quantities, but still carrying potential value for collectors. Many people overlook Jefferson nickels from the 1980s, but the 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is one of those coins that can be valuable depending on condition, rarity, and possible mint errors. That is why viewers should stay through the entire video, because this is not just another common nickel. This coin is valuable, and learning about it can help you identify a hidden treasure in your pocket change or collection. The Jefferson nickel series has been in circulation since 1938, designed by Felix Schlag, and the 1987 Jefferson nickel continues that legacy. On the obverse, the portrait of President Thomas Jefferson appears, and on the reverse, Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home, is displayed. The design remained unchanged for decades, which makes subtle differences and mint marks like the D so important when talking about collector value. The 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is a coin that represents not only American history, but also the continuation of one of the most collected series in U.S. coinage. Now, why is the 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark valuable? The answer lies in a few important factors: condition, collector demand, and special varieties like full steps. When a Jefferson nickel is preserved in mint state condition, with no wear, sharp details, and attractive luster, it becomes far more desirable to collectors. The 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is especially valuable when the steps on Monticello are fully struck and visible, which is known as the full steps designation. Full steps nickels are much scarcer, and collectors are always on the hunt for them. That is why the 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark and full steps can be worth much more than its face value. It is important to remember that while millions of nickels were produced in Denver in 1987, most of them entered circulation and quickly showed wear. This means that finding a 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark in uncirculated condition is not as common as you might think. And among those, finding a true full steps example is even rarer. That rarity translates into value, making the 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark a coin worth searching for in bank rolls, coin jars, and inherited collections. Another reason the 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is valuable is the potential for minting errors. Error coins from the Denver Mint are always exciting for collectors, and the 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark has been found with interesting varieties, such as double die errors, off-center strikes, die cracks, and clipped planchets. If you happen to find one of these error nickels, you could be holding a coin worth far more than face value. Collectors of Jefferson nickels actively search for 1987 Denver Mint nickels with errors, and these coins can command strong premiums in the marketplace. Let's also put this coin into historical context. In 1987, the Jefferson nickel was still struck from a copper-nickel composition, the same as it had been for decades since the end of World War II. The United States was in a time of economic and cultural change during the late 1980s, and while many coins from this era were made in large numbers, they now serve as historical markers. The 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark connects collectors today with that period in history. Owning one of these coins, especially in pristine condition, is like holding a small piece of the 1980s in your hand. That connection adds intangible value in addition to its collector premium. When you think about building a Jefferson nickel collection, every year and every mint mark matters. The 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark fills an important spot in that collection. Without it, your set would be incomplete. While the coin may seem common at first, serious collectors know that quality is what makes it stand out. A well-preserved 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark can be worth much more than face value, and this is why collectors pay close attention to details like strike quality, luster, and step definition. Most 1987 Jefferson nickels with the D mint mark that you encounter in circulation today will be worn and only worth face value. But don't let that fool you. Among those millions of coins, there are gems, coins that escaped circulation and survived in mint state condition. These coins, especially with full steps, are valuable and highly desirable. Collectors and dealers will pay premiums for these coins because they are harder to find than many people think. The marketplace for Jefferson nickels continues to grow as more collectors recognize the value of modern coins. The 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is part of that trend, and values for high-grade examples have shown strength in recent years. Error examples from 1987 Denver nickels are also a strong part of the market, with collectors always willing to pay extra for unusual mistakes. That is why it is always worth searching through rolls of nickels or checking your change carefully. You never know when you might spot a valuable 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark. The story of the 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is not just about numbers. It is about rarity, history, and collector demand. This coin represents more than just 5 cents. It represents an opportunity for collectors to find value in an overlooked era of U.S. coinage. Every time you see that small D mint mark, you are looking at a piece of Denver Mint history, and that history carries real value. So, the next time you come across a 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark, don't ignore it. Take a close look at the details, examine the steps on Monticello, and check for errors. That coin in your hand could be worth far more than you expect. The 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is a valuable coin, and it deserves the attention of every serious collector. Next up, the 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is one of the most interesting coins from the Jefferson nickel series, and it is a coin that collectors continue to study because it is far more valuable than many people realize. When you see a Jefferson nickel from 1962 without a mint mark, that tells you it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During this time period, Philadelphia did not place a mint mark on nickels, so every no mint mark 1962 Jefferson nickel comes from Philadelphia. While at first glance this coin might look like just another nickel, the truth is that the 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark can be valuable in certain conditions, and that is why collectors and coin enthusiasts continue to look for it. The Jefferson nickel series began in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and it was designed by Felix Schlag. On the obverse of the coin is the left-facing portrait of President Thomas Jefferson, and on the reverse is his historic Virginia home, Monticello. This design continued on nickels for decades, which means collectors pay close attention to the year and mint mark combinations to find coins that stand out. The 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is part of that story, and it represents both a piece of U.S. history and a valuable collectible when found in the right condition. Now let's explore why the 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is valuable. The first reason is condition. Most of the coins minted in Philadelphia in 1962 were used in everyday transactions. They were carried in pockets, spent at stores, and passed through countless hands. That circulation caused wear, scratches, and loss of original luster. Because of that, most surviving examples today are worth only their face value of 5 cents. But the story changes completely when you find a coin in mint state condition. Mint state means the coin never entered circulation. It retains its original mint luster, sharp details, and no signs of wear. A 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark in mint state condition is far more valuable than the circulated example. Collectors especially value coins that display sharp details on Monticello, specifically the steps. The full steps designation is one of the most important aspects of Jefferson nickel collecting. If the steps of Monticello are fully visible and unbroken, the coin is given a full steps designation. For the 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark, full steps examples are very scarce. The Philadelphia Mint often produced coins with weaker strikes during this era, meaning the steps did not fully strike up. This makes finding a 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark and full steps extremely challenging. Because of that rarity, full steps examples are highly valuable and can be worth many multiples of face value. Collectors compete for these coins, which is why the 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is so important. Another reason the 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is valuable is the presence of mint errors. Mint errors are mistakes made during the production process, and error coins are very collectible. For 1962 Philadelphia nickels, errors can include double die obverse varieties, where Jefferson's portrait shows doubling, or double die reverse varieties, where the lettering around Monticello or the steps show doubling. Other known errors include die cracks, die clashes, off-center strikes, and clip planchets. Each of these errors makes the coin unique and far more desirable to collectors. An error 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark can be worth far more than a normal example, depending on the type and severity of the error. To understand the 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark fully, we should also place it in the historical context of the early 1960s. The year 1962 was a time of major change in the United States. It was the beginning of the Kennedy era. It was the height of the Cold War. And it was the period before the great coinage changes of 1965, when silver was removed from dimes and quarters. During this time, nickels were still made from the long-standing copper-nickel alloy that continues to this day. While the 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark was a common coin for the people of that era, today it represents history in your hand. It connects modern collectors with the culture, economy, and daily life of 1962 America. That historical significance adds to its value as a collectible. When building a Jefferson nickel collection, Every year and mint mark combination is important. For 1962, the no mint mark Philadelphia coin is essential. Without it, a Jefferson nickel collection is incomplete. Collectors who pursue complete sets of Jefferson nickels know the importance of acquiring a 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark in the best condition they can find. This demand from collectors helps to support the value of this coin in the marketplace. Even though Philadelphia struck millions of these coins in 1962, survival in pristine condition is what makes them valuable. Most coins were used until they became worn, and very few were saved in mint state condition. That is why finding a 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark in gem mint state, especially with full steps, is a true prize for collectors. These coins are far scarcer than the mintage numbers might suggest, and that scarcity makes them valuable. The collector marketplace for Jefferson nickels has been strong for years, and the 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark remains part of that strength. As more collectors decide to pursue Jefferson nickels, demand for coins like the 1962 no mint mark continues to grow. High-grade examples are frequently sought out, and era coins command strong premiums. For that reason, if you have one of these coins, it is always worth examining it closely to see if you have something more valuable than an ordinary nickel. If you happen to come across a 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark, take the time to inspect the steps of Monticello on the reverse. Are they sharp and complete? If so, you may have a full steps example. Check the surfaces under magnification. Do you see doubling, cracks, or clashes? If so, you may have an era coin. And finally, consider the overall condition. Does it retain its original mint luster, or does it show wear from circulation? Each of these factors will help you determine whether your 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is one of the valuable ones. So, while many people think of nickels from the 1960s as common coins, collectors know the truth. The 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark can be a valuable coin when it is preserved in high grade, when it has full steps, or when it has an era variety. That combination of factors makes it an exciting coin to look for and an essential part of the Jefferson nickel series. For coin enthusiasts, this is not just a piece of pocket change. It is a piece of American history and a collectible with real value. The next time you see a 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark, don't pass it by. Take a close look, because you may be holding a coin that is worth far more than 5 cents. The 1962 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is valuable, and it belongs in the spotlight of every serious coin collection. Next up, the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is one of the coins that continues to capture strong attention from collectors, numismatists, and everyday people who are just beginning to explore the world of valuable coins. Today, we are focusing on the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark from the Philadelphia Mint. This coin may seem like just another modern nickel at first glance, but it is much more than that. The 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is valuable, it is collectible, and it deserves a place in your collection if you are serious about Jefferson nickels and United States coinage. By staying with me throughout this video, you will discover why the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is valuable, how to identify its important details, the history behind its design, and why collectors seek it out even today. Let's start with some history. The Jefferson nickel series began in 1938, when it replaced the Buffalo nickel. Felix Schlag's winning design depicted Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home, Monticello, on the reverse. Over the years, the design saw only minor adjustments, and by 1989 the Jefferson nickel had become a long-standing part of American currency. The 1989 Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark represents the Philadelphia Mint's contribution for that year, and it holds value because it continues the legacy of the Jefferson nickel series. The mint mark P is crucial. It identifies that the coin was struck in Philadelphia, and that detail alone is important for collectors who need every date and mint mark combination for a complete Jefferson nickel collection. Now, let's talk about mintage. In 1989, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels. That means the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is not rare in the strictest sense. However, mintage numbers do not always tell the full story. Millions of coins enter circulation, and over time they become worn, scratched, and damaged. Finding a 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark in pristine condition, with sharp detail, strong luster, and minimal wear, is much harder than simply finding an average circulated example. That is why the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is valuable. The best examples, those in top condition, command much higher interest and prices from collectors. One of the biggest factors in determining the value of the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is whether it has full steps on Monticello. Full steps refer to the detail on the reverse of the coin, where the steps of Monticello are located. Most coins from 1989 do not show all of the steps clearly due to strike weakness or circulation wear. If you find a 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark that has complete, uninterrupted steps, that coin is considered a full steps nickel. Full steps examples are much more valuable because they are significantly harder to find. Collectors place a premium on Jefferson nickels with full steps, and that is especially true for the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark. Error coins are another area where value comes into play. The 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark may exist with errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, or clip planchets. These minting mistakes make a coin unique, and collectors pay high prices for error coins. Always check your 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark closely. Look at the date, the lettering, and the mint mark for doubling. Inspect the edges for clips, and look at Jefferson's portrait for striking anomalies. An error coin from 1989 with the P mint mark could be far more valuable than a regular example, and those varieties are what collectors dream of finding in their pocket change. The condition of the coin plays a massive role in determining whether the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is just a common 5-cent piece or a valuable collectible. Circulated coins are common, but uncirculated examples with original mint luster are valuable. Coins graded at higher levels, showing full steps and free of major marks, can be worth far more than their face value. That is why collectors actively seek out the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark in rolls, bags, and collections, because high-quality coins from this year are scarce compared to the total mintage. Collectors also value the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark because it completes an essential spot in Jefferson nickel date and mint mark sets. To build a complete collection, you must have every year and every mint mark, including the 1989 Philadelphia issue. This ongoing collector demand ensures that the coin will always hold value beyond its face value. Even though it may not be rare in circulation, its role in the larger series gives it enduring importance. That importance, combined with the potential for high-grade examples and errors, is why the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is valuable today and will continue to be valuable in the future. Another important point is that many people overlook modern nickels when searching for valuable coins. They tend to focus on older dates, Silver War nickels, or Buffalo nickels. But the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark proves that modern coins can also carry significant value. It's a reminder that valuable coins can appear in your pocket change at any time. This makes the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark exciting to search for, because you could find one without spending a fortune, and if it's in top condition or has an error, it could be worth much more than you expect. The Philadelphia mint has always played a central role in U.S. coinage, and the P mint mark continues to be a detail that collectors look for. In 1989, the Philadelphia mint struck billions of coins across all denominations, but only a small portion of those survive in collector-worthy condition. That is why the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark, when preserved, is valuable. Every coin tells a story, and this coin tells the story of American coinage in the late 1980s, the continuation of the Jefferson series, and the importance of collecting even modern issues. To recap, the 1989 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is valuable for several reasons. It is part of the historic Jefferson nickel series. It comes from the Philadelphia mint, which adds to its collector significance. It has potential value in uncirculated condition, especially with full steps. It can be even more valuable if it contains an error or variety. And it is always in demand by collectors who are building complete sets. All of these factors together show why the 1989 Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark is valuable and why you should always pay attention to coins from this year. So, the next time you come across a Jefferson nickel dated 1989 with the P mint mark, do not dismiss it as just another nickel. Take a closer look. Inspect it carefully, because this coin is not only collectible, it is valuable. And that brings us to the end of today's video about these valuable Jefferson nickels. As you've seen, even coins like the Jefferson nickel from different years and mint marks can be worth far more than their face value if you know what to look for. These Jefferson nickels are valuable coins, and they continue to attract collectors who understand their importance in U.S. coin history. If you enjoyed learning about these Jefferson nickels, I highly recommend that you watch my previous video on wheat pennies. Wheat pennies are some of the most popular and valuable coins that collectors search for, and that video will give you even more insight into what makes certain coins so collectible and valuable. So after this, make sure to check out my video on wheat pennies. You don't want to miss it. And if you love valuable coins, rare nickels, dimes, quarters, half dollars, and pennies, make sure you subscribe to my channel right now. By subscribing, you'll never miss out on videos about valuable coins that could be sitting in your pocket change today. Hit that subscribe button, because more coin videos are coming your way, and you don't want to miss the next one.